Now I've got a quick intro for you today because I've got a few minutes of fishing footage I want to show you after the tie. So the pattern, it's just a generic Mayfly Dun. And I'll tie this thing on 12s, 14s, and 16s with really only a couple of colors for the body, either a light gray or a dark gray, and then a few different colors for a hackle. Brown, grizzly, or maybe a dun. And one thing I do add to this is just a real thin strip of Mylar tinsel, maybe 3 or 4 wraps up through the body. And I don't know for sure, but I think it makes it a more effective pattern in bright sunlight. Now it's a really simple tie, but it's been pretty effective for me. In fact, it was the only fly I used in a couple of hours on the gunpowder this morning. So there it is in the vise, just my generic Mayfly Dun. This one in a dun color with brown hackle. And this is a size 14 standard length barbless dry fly hook. I'll typically tie this in 12s, 14s, and 16s. Let's catch in some thread just somewhere up here in the first third. And I would say this part is totally optional, totally up to you. Just a little white parapost. We're going to catch it in pretty much as an indicator. So up here toward the front of the hook, get several wraps to lock it in. I'm going to go ahead and snip off the back piece so my body doesn't get too thick here in a minute. And I'm going to put a couple wraps around this just like I was doing a parachute, even though it's just kind of a wing. And I don't think the fish can see this thing. It really just helps the fisherman. And if it's a small one, you'd be surprised at how little it takes to really help you see the fly. So with your thread in the back, take some hackle fibers. Really just whatever color the hackle you're going to use up front is. So it's just kind of convenient that way. Could really be any color you want. And I got one going down. We'll take care of that in just a second. But before we wrap our body, I catch in just a smallest piece of Mylar tinsel. This is actually a 16-18, which I think is pretty much a small. Okay, let's do that. Now let's take care of some of this fluff right here and that extra barb I have sticking down. Okay, that tail right there is going to work. Let's put a little wax on our thread. And really any dubbing you want. I'm going to go with a light gray rabbit on this one. And I'm just going to dub a pretty thin noodle, just enough to get me up there behind that wing. And you can try to get a taper if you want. If you don't pull that off, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But maybe just a slight bit thicker up front. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. Let's go one more wrap. And now 3 or 4 wraps of this Mylar just to give it a little bit of reflectivity, a little bit of flash. I don't know how much this helps, but it does seem to help on bright days. And now just some brown dry fly hackle, or whatever color you're making this fly. I'm making this one a dun and brown color, so I'm going with the brown here. And a feather that's going to give you barbs, I'd say 1.5 times the hook gap should be plenty. I'm going to try to get maybe 2 wraps behind that wing and then at least 3 in front of it. So go ahead and just wrap them. And don't worry if you end up pushing that post forward, we can push it back when we get in front of it. Okay, I think that's going to be plenty. And before I snip off that feather, I'm just going to pull everything back and then build my head. Now get a quick whip finish in here before all these fibers start poking forward again. And now we can take care of this excess. And there we go, generic mayfly done. Critiquing this fly, that hackle might be a little bit too long, but we still got a fishable fly. It's going in my box. So that's it, my friends. I appreciate you watching. Stick around a couple of minutes if you want to see me fishing this thing on the gunpowder this morning. All right, good morning from the Gunpowder River here in Maryland. I'm here on a Tuesday morning. It's fairly early because it's going to get hot today, but coming on a weekday, you kind of get the river to yourself. I'm parked at York Road. I'm walking downstream. I'm going to wade it upstream, fishing some dry flies. Got a lot of water like that. You can see up there behind me, that's upstream. I'm going to be wading that way. It can be a little tricky. My tactic here is fairly smooth, slow water, and kind of deep in spots, not real deep mostly, but the tactic I'm going to start off with is small flies, long and light leader. So I've got a size 16, it's a little gray, brown hackled Mayfly Dun, but it's got a little bit of flash in it. No name to this fly, it's just a pretty generic Mayfly Dun. Should be a fun morning, let's give it a shot. There's one. All right, not huge. Pretty standard looking gunpowder brown, I'm going to bet. All right, no net needed, just wet my hand. Pretty little fish. All right, get on back in there, buddy. So this little stretch in front of me is a little easier to fish. It's just faster water, a little bit choppier. I don't have to be as stealthy, and it's maybe not as deep. So I don't have to get a perfect presentation or drift. I mean, you still need a good drift, but the fish here won't have as long to look at the fly as they did in that big flat pool a minute ago. There's one, look at that. All right, nah, he's not very big. All right, don't need a net for this guy. Get on back in there, buddy. Sometimes with the barbless hooks, you don't even have to handle them. You see this guy? My friend is back and he is just pecking at my waders. He's like my best friend here today. He's taking a little bath right here beside me. All right, back to fishing. There's one. He's okay, he's a jumper. I need the net for this guy. Yeah, let's get the net for him. He's big enough. All right, hooks out of him. Take a look at that, not huge. Oh, sorry, buddy. But it's a good 8 plus, maybe. All right, you see that, folks? It is a sad sight, and it is why we should not leave our flies in the trees whenever possible. Got a bird that is eating a nymph in a tree. Well, let's see if we can get him out of there. All right, poor guy. Come here, buddy. Come here, little buddy. And it is a barbed hook. That is sad. See, I don't have my hemostats with me. So, just do the best I can here. There we go. All right, got it out of him, but he's not real healthy. He's alive sitting there on the ground. He may survive.